So good morning, everyone. I'm Akshay. I'm from the enterprise switching team, and I'm the product manager for Cisco Catalyst Digital Building Series switches. Today, I'll be walking over what is the entire digital building solution and how we are realizing that through the newly launched Catalyst Digital Building Series switches. So I'll jump straight to the point. We're talking about buildings here, and this particular product is specifically aimed at commercial buildings, enterprise buildings, and all the other sorts of buildings. We know that digital transformation has changed the way buildings function. Yesterday it was, the buildings 10, 20 years back were pretty simple. They had just HVAC, phone, and IT networks in them. But buildings today are becoming so much more complex, with having so many different features such as HVAC building systems, IT networks, security cameras, automated elevators, all of the other things. So there is definitely automation in today's buildings. There are better experiences, and today's building systems make the buildings safer as well. But each of these building subsystems, still till date, they're all maintained on separate building networks. Or separate networks individually, and what happens when there are separate networks and each of these subsystems is hosted on separate networks is that there is no communication or there is no synchronization when it comes to the evolution of each of these subsystems, which also makes it tougher for a building or facilities manager to grasp everything together or to improve the building altogether. So it leads to some areas which are developing so rapidly, such as lighting technology. In the past 3 or 4 years itself, we have seen that the lighting technology has improved by leaps and bounds when it comes to the efficiency of the LED bulbs or the way they are controlled. And in some other aspects, just recent news of how a particular university was attacked by its own vending machines. 5,000 IoT devices were compromised, and some other part because there was no segmentation across the entire network. So we see that there is discrepancy in how each of these subsystems evolves because the building is not going through a coherent journey. So this leads to a complex system which has to be managed by the facilities manager, which is not custom optimized. It's not scalable. You cannot replicate it across different buildings. And most importantly, it's not secure. So there are multiple challenges for facilities managers, starting with the complexity. There are retrofit projects that fail because of issues during the installation and deployment, and because the facilities manager cannot manage the entire complexity of the network. Second is the cost. As the number of subsystems keep on increasing, the cost of managing these subsystems keep on increasing as well, and you can very easily go overboard without an optimized solution. And finally, it's the risk, the system security, and the trouble tickets, as I said in the news article, which shows that your endpoints can be compromised. That leads to the Cisco's digital network architecture, which is the basic foundation for the rest of the entire presentation, because this is the core which we are extending to the building's edge as well. So Cisco's DNA, which we talked about so far, ensures automation, security, and analytics, and gets the entire IP network into a converged, secure system, right? Which leads to this particular switch. Now, this is a really interesting switch because this is Cisco's first switch. It's not an access layer switch, but it's for connecting the endpoints, IoT devices on, and bringing them on into the entire network. Just a few features. So it extends DNA to the building edge. And this is the foundation for connecting all of the endpoints onto the entire single IP converged secure network. Very power efficient. I will talk about this later in a particular slide as well. But this switch is way ahead of the industry standards when it comes to the power efficiency. It's very compact, rugged design. It's specifically designed for low voltage building deployments. So since its application is on indoor deployments, it has to be a fanless switch, noiseless switch, which can exist anywhere, not only in a rack but even on the ceiling anywhere. So that's the ceiling and rack mountable. The power that comes out of the switch is really, for its size, is ahead from any other. So it's an 8-port switch. Cisco UPOE, the UPOE power that comes out of the switch is 60 watts per port. So 8 ports, that's 480 watts for the entire compact switch. And the PoE plus option is 30 watts per port, right? It is low voltage compliant and it has a high temperature rating. So it's a very robust switch, which makes it really simple to install. I'll talk about the security and the savings later on, but this is just the overall introduction of the entire switch.
So the high temperature rating is the room temperature, right?
Yeah. So a few aspects which set the entire switch apart, as I talked about the UPOE power. There are 2 specific aspects of the UPOE power. First is the fast UPOE, which ensures that the switch will reboot within 5 seconds. Now, earlier it used to take almost 45, 50, almost a minute for the entire switch to reboot when there was a power loss, but this particular switch gets the power back within 5 seconds of a power loss. The second is perpetual UPOE, which ensures that the power is still going on, whether in times of configuration or at times of upgrade. What this means is when we look at specifically for only the lighting applications, but there are bigger, brighter lighting fixtures, but obviously the switch need not only power lighting applications, it goes much beyond that. It's for surveillance cameras, it's for powering any single endpoint, IoT endpoint within the entire building. The second is smart installs, which I will get to in a little bit, of how we can automate the entire installation process, and we have made it really easy for facilities or not the construction people, electricians, when they're installing the entire switch, to automatically test the entire switch and the connections rather than have to manually do that, right? And we have a mobile app that does that. So even inexperienced personnel can install the entire switch. The third is the convergence. We acknowledge that this switch will eventually be hosting multiple different networks in the entire building. So we started the journey with CoAP, which is Constrained Application Protocol, which is a protocol that governs constrained devices such as lighting fixtures, surveillance cameras, or other different devices, and brings them all, or ensure that all of them can talk to each other. So the switch comes with CoAP facilities. The fourth is, that's just the starting. Obviously, there are more protocols that are there. We were just having a conversation the other day about BACnet and how that can be integrated in the switch as well. The fourth is DNA extension. So I'll talk about this as well, but the switch is DNA ready, which ensures that we can use the APIC-EM for the configuration, and the switch can also be automated. It has all the security features of APIC-EM, and it can be segmented from the entire network as well. And finally, the design. As I talked about it is noise-free. It's plenum rated, so we can put it in the ceiling space as well. And it ensures that for a specific indoor application, this switch is really optimized. And to tie everything together, which is the piece which really is the key point for a lot of people who are installing the switch or the decision makers when a new building is formed, is that all of this can be delivered at slightly less cost than any other traditional lighting solution. So the traditional lighting solution was AC LED, and this switch can be deployed, the entire solution can be deployed at a lower cost than that. Let's start with the cabling aspect of it. So this is a really rough picture. Obviously, you don't just keep the switch on the phone, but we don't have any recent pictures, but it comes with the entire rack, and this rack can be mounted in the ceiling as well as a rack or a cabinet. So that's the flexible mounting option. The physical stacking options, we have multiple stacking options, whether horizontally or vertically. The powering options are also, we just started 2, but there is a third one coming as well. So there's IEC and a direct wire junction box. So this is the junction box, and You can have IC power or direct wire power right now, but in the future for Europe, we have something called VLAN connectors. So we will have a junction box which has VLAN connectors as well. And finally, the orientation can be upright, face down, sideways, anyway. So this switch is really, really flexible in its deployment. And the advantage is that there's just a single cable that runs across everywhere, whether it is for fire, IP cameras, LED lights, which integrates all of the different aspects up here. So high voltage AC, backnet, coaxial cable, and the PVX, which were cables for different purposes throughout the years. All of them integrated over the years into a single cable right now. So it obviously simplifies the installation and reduces the cabling costs. Now this is the mobile app that I was talking about. So this is, I'll just switch this on and off, but at the time when you make a connection, at the time of installation, you don't have an IT network in place. You can just use this app to ensure whether the fixtures are connected properly to the switch or not. It's just an on-off button here. And I'll pass this around for you guys to see if you want. But this makes the installation really hassle-free. And again, saves money, saves human power or human effort during the installation time, and then at that time, it's just really easy to deploy. The second is, even without the IT network still in place, we have the Cisco Configuration Professional for Cisco Catalyst, that's Cisco CPC, which basically takes, it's not an IT-based solution, but it takes the, it supports the switch through the entire life cycle of setting up and configuration, through monitoring and troubleshooting and maintenance. So this switch comes with the support for Cisco Catalyst, the Cisco CPC as well. The second is network plug and play, which is a part of APIC-EM. Again, the switch comes, which is a part of the entire DNA center, but or DNA, but it comes with APIC-EM up there as well. So each switch is pre-provisioned with policies, rules, images, and IP addressing. There's a PNP agent on the switch, which talks to a PNP server. And at that time, when the IT system is in place, it can get configured according to these rules and policies. I think you must be knowing about this PNP already. So the entire security that is integrated in the switch, which comes from Cisco DNA and Cisco iOS, takes the switch through a journey which really makes it very robust and very secure for all building deployments. Starting with the APIC-EM for plug and play for enterprise-wide configuration. To policy-based access and automation, APIC-EM comes integrated with ICE, which is for segmenting the entire network and ensuring that lights will speak only with lights, and lights cannot speak with the surveillance camera or with the entire network itself, right? Cisco iOS comes as in the previous presentation, Derek was talking about network as a sensor and network as an enforcer. So this switch comes with Cisco iOS inside it, and we can host network as a sensor and network as an enforcer on the iOS platform, which extends into the switch as well. So we have three aspects which are important aspects: device profiling, such that each and every endpoint can be profiled into a separate role-based mode. Second is the segmentation, so that each of the device endpoints are segmented properly and they don't talk to each other. And finally, the role-based authentication and security. Getting into the cost parts, I'll first talk about the energy savings aspect. When everything is active, even in that mode, the switch has 10% power savings. It meets all the requirements for 80+ gold power certification. It's not certified yet, but we are working on that. When there is low Ethernet traffic, the power savings are, because of the energy efficient Ethernet, there are power savings in that. But the two aspects up here which really set it apart are the no PoE draw. So when the switch goes into idle mode, it saves almost 50% of the energy. And when there is no Ethernet traffic at all, it goes into hibernate mode where it is saving almost 75% of the energy. So this coupled with the Cisco Energy Manager, which is another application for monitoring the entire energy usage and analytics in your entire network, the switch coupled with that really make for a really strong team for ensuring that we have complete control and visibility across the energy utilization in the building. This is the catch for all building constructors, where we say UPOE LED, which is the first solution, which is our solution. It's almost 10% less expensive than the AC LED solution, which is the traditional solution. So for greenfield deployments, for new buildings coming up, it's a no-brainer. You have all of the features which were never present in the AC wiring or AC lighting aspect in this particular switch, and it also makes your building safer because there is DC power running all the through. A lot of people ask, how is it that the cost is so much different? This study was done primarily for the US, but in the US, data technicians are paid way less than electricians. So because of that disparity in the entire time to, or disparity in the entire payment, the labor costs are very different. Energy savings are almost 38% per year, and I feel the most important aspect is that the biggest cost savings is in this part, which is future-proofing buildings for innovation. So you have one common anchor, which ensures that even if there are innovations 4, 5, 6, 10 years, because the high system life, which is 10 years itself, even 6, 7 years down the line, when there are innovations, you have a common backbone or a framework to put it all in together. 2 quick case studies. I won't go too deeply into them, but APIC-EM, which is a facilities management firm based in Switzerland, integrated this entire switch. Their biggest pain point was that it was the operational costs were really high for managing all of these different subsystems in the entire buildings. So lighting, HVAC, and CCTV being the 3 important aspects. This switch, so we installed a Catalyst digital building switch, and we integrated all of the 3 aspects of lighting, HVAC, and CCTV on that, and enabled with Cisco Spark. Now the costs are lower, and the experience is very different. So this is a corporate case study. The second case study is something that we've done in Dallas, Fort Worth, which is a high-end hospitality industry. One of the Marriott hotels was transformed, and again gave new customer experiences and brought down the cost of operating of the entire switch. So the energy, it was a direct effect of the energy savings. We're working with different partners. We have lighting partners, which are our primary use case. But obviously, that is not the only use case. We are working with security partners, surveillance partners. Those are the other people who are working with. We are working with building automations and controls, accessory manufacturers, because in the end, a lot of times you have to manipulate the voltage coming out of the entire switch to ensure that it can power a range of different endpoints. And finally, independent software vendors. So we have 23 partners right now. But Cisco is a great place to anchor all of these partners because we are agnostic. We will never make lighting fixtures on our own. But we can get the entire ecosystem together and say, hey, you know what? Like, we can all work together to ensure that the digital buildings, the vision is realized in the future. So 3 reasons why Cisco is the right place for this next wave of innovation. We have a comprehensive ecosystem for complete architecture. The entire footprint or the blueprint of how to digitize buildings can be anchored here. We have an IP infrastructure which can be, which is open and scalable. And finally, we have pre-validated solutions. So whenever we give any solutions to our customers, those would have gone through a rigorous set of, or rigorous test to ensure that those solutions actually work. So that's the reason. So I can take any questions that you have now on the switch in general or anything else.
Yeah, I have a question. How do you call the operating system? And can you give us some details? Is it a Linux-based system or what can?
So it's just the Cisco iOS operating system. It's not the newest operating system that Cisco has, but it can. I think it's a Linux-based thing, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's just basically the same as the Catalyst 2K operating systems, and all the security features such as I spoke about, network as a sensor and network as an enforcer can be hosted as applications on that particular operating system.
And you cut it down the feature set, so, or has it the same feature set than the 2K series?
So it's not an access layer switch. So it will work primarily with an access layer switch as an upstream switch in the entire network. So it's not a replacement for a 2K, or it's not a replacement for a 3K. It's basically for connecting the endpoints which were not connected before earlier. So lighting fixtures, security cameras, yeah.
So you can run this as a single box, manages it single, or you can integrate the centralized management, yeah?
Yeah, so this you can daisy chain the entire solution such that there are multiple boxes which are daisy chained all onto one particular upstream switch. It can be either a ring topology or something like that, but we do need an upstream switch, for working with this.